Okay, guys, Mr. Vaughan's away today, so I'm going to just try and give you a brief introduction to this lesson. Um, I'm just filming. There we go. That'll do. Okay, so what we're going to be looking at today is breadboarding and getting the initial part of your breadboard assembled, populated, I think you'd say. I need to remember to talk quite loud because I think that the microphone on this isn't too great. Right, so what we have here is a breadboard. I'm not sure if you've used them before. This breadboard is slightly different to other breadboards in the department as it doesn't have a space down here and here, what are called the bus rails. These things which are going down the outside are the bus rails. So can you see? And I'm going to do it on this. I'm going to do it on this one. Can you see that all of these which are marked blue, which is slightly confusing because in actual fact they're low, all of those terminals there are connected on the right side. Equally, all of these terminals here are connected on the right side where I'm drawing a line. Okay, so also all the terminals here, that's all right, where I'm drawing, are connected, as all of these terminals are connected. And the idea behind this is each side of the breadboard, you have a high and a low. I suppose the idea is that we have a PTM, for example, a PTM, let's just draw one in. And you would have a high and a low from the PTM. So you would have the high from the PTM going to the high of the bus rail, which provides the power, and then you'd have the low from the PTM going to one of the tracks on the bus rail. And you can see the tracks are numbered. So that's 25, 26, 27. I'm now on track 28. You could then have, for example, here an LED going between these two tracks. So we've got A, B, C, D, E of track 28, and then we've got F, G, H, I, J of track 28. These, the left-hand section and the right-hand section, are not connected under here, but all of these 5 ports are connected. So we could put an LED there, and indeed we could connect it to the low. The problem being, if that happened, is that if you had a reasonably powerful, if you paired it with a USB, the LED would blow. So what you would need is a resistor here going to the low side of the bus rail, low side of the circuit. And those spaces allow components to be put in position. However, of course, where does the power come from? Well, the power will come from a USB, of course. Let's just do the USB. Is it like that or something? You'd have a USB terminal like we've used before, and coming out of the terminal, you would have a low wire going to the low bus rail, and then you would have a high wire going to the high bus rail. Makes sense? I'm just going to put some little dots in there. In addition, though, that's only going to power these bus rails. So you need some wire going across. Now, if the wire goes across, what you need to do is take it from the blue to the blue, and also you need to take it from the red to the red. Now, you may want to do it at the top, for example. You may want to do it at the bottom as I have done. I don't know. It's up to you. It doesn't really matter. But what you can see now is we've got power in the bus rail. If it's the high, the whole of both sides of the bus rail, as in the right-hand side and the left-hand side, which are red, which are the left ports, have gone high, and equally well for the low. So that's the idea behind a breadboard. Again, the bus rails are all connected, and all of the rows are connected together. The rows are numbered. They've also got letters. The rows are not connected to the bus rails. The rows are not connected in the middle, and the rows are not connected on the other side to the bus rail. And that allows components to be put on there and to be used. I hope that makes sense. So what I would like you to do is get some of the solid core and start off by populating your breadboard. The first thing I would like you to do is, just as I have on that other board, is I would like you to connect the red to the red and the blue to the blue. I've just gone and it's actually black, isn't it? The red to the red and the I know it's blue, but in actual fact it should be black. So it should look something like that. Once you've done that, I'd like you to get a USB like we did before. I don't think we should put them up there. We've got the USB terminal. You'll find them. There's some racking by the door, and it's the bottom right hand drawer is where you will find this. And I think it's got something like that. I think that's the sort of USB symbol. And of course, we've got the wire coming out of it like that, and we've got a black wire. I would probably put the black wire in what would be port 60, 59, probably 59. And then I would look to put the high probably in port something like 57, keeping them quite far away from each other, because we're going to tape these in, which you will find out about later. Okay, so we've done that. We've got power going to the bus rail. We've got power going to both sides. So it's sort of happy days. Right, next up, you're going to find a Genie, and that's in the rack in the cupboard. And I would start at port. I would be in line with this here. Can you see these come in banks of 5? I don't know why they come in banks of 5. I think it's a bit of a pain, to be honest. But it's going to be row 9, and we're going to draw. It's got to concentrate. Because it's a Genie 14, there are 14 legs, which means there's 7 each side. But that top leg should be in line with the top of one of these banks, I think. And of course, also, we have that little sign on the Genie as well. So we know which way it goes up. And I've probably drawn that there a bit thin. I'm just going to keep my eye on the time because I've got to upload this to YouTube. Yeah, we've probably got a few more minutes. Okay, once you've done that, I want you to get a red wire and go from port 9 across. So you're going from the high to port 9A to the high, and on the other side, I want you to go from port 9J to the low. We're going to be putting an information port in, but not quite yet. The next thing we're going to do is have a look at the LEDs, okay? The LEDs are going to go down here. Now, I would like to see them, I'm just having a quick look, I would like to see them going from port 28 across to the low here, and that would be 28 on the other side, 6, 7, 8, going across to the low. We know that the cathode from the LED always goes low. That's the short leg of the LED. So to be clear, the short leg of the LED should be going into the bus rail. I want the same thing to be going on row 35. So that would be the short leg going into the bus rail, and just going to put that one in, the short leg going into the bus rail, and we're going to come down one more bank, which is here, and that is, I think that's 41. I think, yes, it is 41. We're going to go from row 41A to the bus rail. That's the low side of the bus rail, and then we've got 41F going to the low side of the bus rail. Okay. In addition, we want to put an LED right in the middle, of course, but we can't connect it to row 35 because we've already got that LED connected to it. So what we're going to do is we're going to connect it with a low leg to row 34 and a high leg going to row 35. And I'm going to put myself a little plus there just to remind me. Now, as that's a low leg, but it's not going to the low, I also need a black wire going into from row 34, I believe that is, A, to the low of the circuit. Now what I've got is I've got each one of these in the correct position, so that what I can do is I can start to wire them up from the Genie. Now we know about the pairs, don't we? We know that we've got a pair here, we know that we've got a pair here, we know we've got a pair here, and then we know that this one is on its own for our dice. So what we've got to do is link the anodes of each pair. Now this sounds easier than it is, because of course what I could do is I could get a wire and from here come all the way up there, but then unfortunately I'm going to be on the same row as this LED, so I can't go all the way up. I've got to go slightly shorter. So from row 41 I'm going to go all the way up to row, I think that's 29, 41 to 29 with a blue wire, and because it's internal it's blue. I'm then going to go from 29E over to 29F, and of course I can't go from 29F again because I've already got a cable there. I'm going to go from 29F to 29G to 28G. And what that's done now is linked the anode of this LED with the anode of that LED. I want you to do exactly the same for the other pair, the other diagonal pair, which is here. So I'm going to drop this down all the way, just short of row 41, which is this row, which is the bottom LEDs on. Okay, I'm then going to go across with on row 40, and then I'm going to come down on row 40 to 41, F, G. Okay, so I've connected these two together, I've connected these two together, and now finally I've got to connect these two together. Now the simplest way, of course, is just to go underneath, but we've just got to make sure that we don't we don't get confused at all. Right, so now I've linked the pairs of my LEDs together. Okay, so we have a high side of the circuit and we have a low side of the circuit for this particular LED, which comes off of Q1. We have the low, we have the status and Q0, and then we have Q1. So Q1 is coming out of row 11, I believe. I'm going to go down and come to here. This is where I want to come to. And can you see that this would then, if we could power the Genie out and get the power to here, the power would go through the LED and then through the low, and therefore that light would turn on. So I'm going to come out of Q0, Q1, which is row 11I, and I'm going to drop it all the way down. Can you see how we're moving in absolute straight lines? So that would then be the correct wiring for that middle LED. Okay, notice black wires go low, red wires go high. Okay, next up I'm going to connect these two together. Well, these are out of Q2 and I've got to connect the anode. Now fortunately enough, that is the anode there, although I could try and use that. I'm not going to do that. That is about 27, I think it is, 27H, and that's going to go all the way to Q2, and Q2 is there at, I think that is 12H. So now if we were to power that, that one would come on, but also going through here, that one would come on as well. So we've got the first LED on, we've got the second LED on. What about the third LED on? That comes out of Q3. So Q3 is this one, isn't it? Q3. And where do we need to get to? Well, we need to get to one of these, don't we? This is a bit more troublesome. This is a bit more troublesome. Right, what I'm going to do is I'm going to come from Q3. I'm going to come all the way down, stopping just short. I think that is row 22. I'm going to jump over on row 22 from 22F to 22E. Sorry, I said 22. It's my eyesight. It's 27, not 22. And then from 27D, I'm going to go to 28D. And that should connect to the anode of that pair as well. Okay, all getting a little bit complicated around here. But finally, what do I'm just going to colour that one in just so we know what's going on. Finally, we've got to do something here, I think, or we could try and go under here. We're probably going to have some sort of diagonal going on. From what would be row 14, I'm going to drop down, but I'm just trying to work out where I'm going to go. Can't go in there. Can't go in there. I mean, part of me does wonder about not going in there, but going into this one here, which would be I14I, which is underneath an existing wire, and just coming down here to 35I. Now, that would then give me power. I think that's correct, and if it's not, I'm sure Mr. Vaughan can help you out. Finally, what I would say is when stripping the wires, use solid core. When stripping the wires, if we draw a wire on here, and I know it's sort of hard to envisage it, but we don't want long bits of metal sticking out the end like that. What we want to do is we want to cut them off so that the pieces of metal that's sticking out the end are about 8 millimeters. That means that the entirety of that piece of metal can poke into the port, and that's really important. Okay, kids, look, I'm going to call it there because I don't have much time, but that should give you enough to get along with during next lesson. So you're stripping wire, you're getting components, everything can be found in the cupboard. You know where the wire strippers are. The Genies are in the cupboard marked Genie 14s. And yeah, let's just get this board up and running. I think that's it. Best of luck, guys.